ModSquad featuring Ian Schnoor, Executive Director of Financial Modeling Institute, Giles, humble MVP and co-founder of Full Stack Modeler, and Paul Barnhurst, the FP&A guy.
Their focus is modeling and finance use cases. They have several different LLM models as an option, automate workflows, and personalizes formatting all within Excel.
That one's an interesting one to me, saving prompts.
I find that even using the same prompt is yielding different results at times. When you ask it to do too many questions at the same time, it can take quite a while to process.
It's got the right answer. It's kind of fulfilled my prompt, but then it's kind of embedded hard-coded numbers in a way we would try and avoid.
I wanted to get a head start on building the structure of a model. Maybe this would help save me time.
There are lots of model auditing tools out there on the market. I don't think there are any that would have this level of insight.
There are several tools we're going to test. Today's tool we're going to be looking at. Welcome to Financial Modelers Corner. I am your host, Paul Barnhurst, the FP&A guy. And this week, I'm joined by two exciting financial modelers for an exciting series we're going to be doing. So let's start by introducing our modelers, then we'll tell you all about the series. Ian, would you like to quickly introduce yourself?
Fantastic, Paul, and I hope everyone has seen our ads by now. We are the ModSquad. I'm Ian Schnoor, Executive Director of Financial Modeling Institute, and I'm really excited to be having fun with the two of you as we test all of the new AI financial modeling tools on the market. My focus will be on the corporate finance angle of things, three-statement modeling, valuation, etc. It's going to be a great series.
Over to you, humble MVP, sometimes known as Giles, or even Miles, depending on who you ask.
Oh, you had to do that.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be here too. Yes. So my name's Giles. I'm co-founder of Full Stack Modeler. I'm one of Ian's FMI's MFM's master financial modelers, apparently, and also very excited to get going on this. And I'm going to be looking at testing these tools with some Excel eSports battle cases, and then a bit of what I would kind of think of as localized data wrangling, data management, data analytics in the grid of Excel. Looking forward to getting started.
Giles, if your goal was to make me feel not worthy, you did it by, I'm an MFM.
We're a very small elite group. I think I got in from my music videos. Was that right, Ian?
100%. The other MFMs voted you in entirely on the back of your videos. Just kidding. But it's not bad for you to think that.
We know Giles is Mr. Video, and he's a good modeler, so we're excited for that. All right. So as I mentioned, I'm Paul Barnhurst, and I'll be testing on FP&A use cases as the FP&A guy. Why don't we just jump right into things? There are several tools we're going to test. Today's tool we're going to be looking at is Tracelight. We've put together a little document I want to share and get your guys' thoughts about Tracelight here. Let me bring it up on the screen. So here's a little bit of information about Tracelight. And then, in Giles, feel free to jump in at any time. So product type, they're an Excel add-in. They may be adding Google Sheets at some time. I know many of them are, but currently they're strictly Excel. They're in general release. The product came out of beta just in August of this year, but the company's been around for about a year. Their focus is modeling and finance use cases. They're really going after the financial analyst and consultant is their ideal customer. Pricing, $40 per month. And then, the normal enterprise contact us.
Throw a couple of thoughts in there straight away. So for me, the fact it's an Excel add-in versus being taken somewhere external, I like. And I think most of them are, to be honest. And then the pricing point, I think we see a wide range of prices already in this space. And that $40 a month is right at the low end as far as I'm aware on this.
For the premium product, obviously, right?
Yeah, for the pro.
I think for the pro versions, we see typically anywhere from 20 to 50. It's probably the high end. A couple of them have a student or a light version that are around $10. And we see the high end max versions running $200 to $500. And most of them have an enterprise on top of that. So it's really interesting. So basically it's anywhere from free with very little usage to the highest one I think I've seen outside of enterprise is $500. I'd see most people for a month, the general user, individual user is in that 15 to 50, 60 range. If you want the high-end tool, kind of their max versions, you're often a couple hundred. They're definitely right in. I think they're realistic. LLM integration. The one thing we definitely knows about Tracelight is they have several different LLM models as an option. Their goal is allow you to select, and there are some cases, certain stages where they may use a fine-tuned model to help improve things. From their perspective on what makes us unique, we asked each of them to tell us that. So they say Tracelight builds models, checks for errors, automates workflows, and personalizes formatting all within Excel. So they're really emphasizing, like you said, Giles, right, in Excel, which the reality is Excel isn't going anywhere anytime soon. Any of us think it will be gone in the next 5-10 years?
Nope.
Not unless there's a crazy AI evolution that we can't control, but that's probably a different topic.
We'll cover that when it happens too. We got it all for you, right?
Gotcha.
All right. So that's a little bit about them. And then they put some best practices for optimal results. We won't go through and read those, but they're really kind of some of the best practice for prompting. You know, you get the best results for starting a new chat when it gets really long. And, you know, if you're going to do something that's really complex, create a plan first. Don't just try to figure it all out in one shot. I think pretty practical stuff. Now take a minute and look at the website. Ian, any first thoughts as you kind of look at it and see it?
I like it. It's clean. It is simple. It's got a nice sort of animation on it. I think it's sort of a minimum viable product. It feels like that anyway. As for the website, I think the website, I like it. It's attractive and it feels clean, you know, simple. So it appeals to me and it made me want to check it out.
My attention's drawn just to the wording. So the front headline on the page has become superhuman in Excel. And then I think a word we would probably all gravitate towards is that it's saying it's an assistant to financial modelers or financial modeling, which again feels like maybe a more appropriate statement than just like, this is going to swap out Excel completely and you'll never need an analyst on your team again.
We're seeing both, right? We're seeing two different tones from the tools. Some tools say, we'll be your assistant and we'll, like here, I like how they're a little tongue-in-cheek, a little cheeky, trying to have fun with it, become a superhuman Excel user, but still, it means you're going to need to work in Excel. We'll be your assistant. And we've seen other tools say, you're gone, you're out of here. We're so going to get you out of here. Well, you're never going to be needed again, right? And that's the tone on others. And so I think, you know, our thinking, right, we've talked about it, is this feels more in line with where we think things are headed right now.
So, all right, just a quick run through. Stop me if you see anything, right? Build with language, whole idea of tell it what you want, and then it builds it. Discover errors. It has a check in the tool. We'll show it here in a minute. You know, format instantly. I think this is a great one where if you have a sample page, you know, kind of do all the formatting. Sure, some of that you can do with macros a little bit, but I think there's some cool things there. I like this one, being able to save your workflows. I think this is becoming more and more important as we start to really try to replicate things, which we all know, Gen AI, we've all run enough tools. Do we get the exact same answer every time? No.
That one's an interesting one to me, saving prompts. It's not something I'd really thought about, but yeah, it feels like there could be huge value in that.
Right, because we do know you get a big difference, right? If you got a really good prompt and it worked well, you may want to save it for next time. Maybe it's something you do every month. You may not get the exact same response next time, but you're likely to get something much better than if you start over with the prompt every time.
I find that even using the same prompt is yielding different results at times. And so saving the prompt is definitely a nice feature.
Ask anything. Yeah, you can ask it to do whatever you want. And then we've looked at this before. You know, we showed you the pricing, no changes. They do have a free limited generations, limited chat, unlimited tracing. So try it out for free. The only thing other thing is security. I think it's good to see, you know, they really have an emphasis there. They've changed this since last time I looked at it, but I know in here they mentioned SOC 2 compliance, which nowadays is the minimum. You got to have some strong security standards. So I think that's good to see. I think that's about it on the website. Should we jump into the tools?
Let's jump in. And I think we've rolled the dice here and we're going to start with Giles today, aren't we? With Giles, I think we're going to, and we'll timestamp these for everyone to see after, but we'll start with Giles. We'll move into Paul, and then I'll finish up with corporate finance queries and requests towards the end. Isn't that right?
All right, so let me try and do this at reasonable pace, and I know you two will stop me if I'm waffling. This is the first of 2 battle cases, so this is considered an easy battle case. Esports players will know it. It's Excel Athlete Basics Revisited. The way these battle cases work is you've typically got sort of 7 levels that increase in difficulty. You got to solve these levels. They're just different problems with text and numbers and things like that. You put your answers in the green cells. There's 5 bonus questions at the top. I'm probably just going to leave those out. But what I do want to see if these tools can do is solve the levels 1 to 7.
For someone who's never seen these before, and many of them will never seen it, it sounds like if you roll up to the top, there's a, what is it? There's a case overview, a description, and then as you work your way down, your job as the competitor is to populate formulas into the dark green cells. Is that correct?
Exactly. Why don't I do so? Let me highlight level 1. We'll do level 1. It's a nice, easy one. So level 1, we want to extract a certain number of characters of a word starting from the left as requested. What are the first characters according to the given word and the number of characters? You always get like an example line here. So example 1, the word is here on the right-hand side, filtro, and the characters that we're being asked to extract is the first 3. And it gives you that example answer. The first 3 letters of that word, FIL. So if you were doing this with functions, and I do want the tool to give me functions back, really, not hard-coded answers, is you would do something like left, point at the word, point at the characters, so it's nice and dynamic. You get the answer, and then I could just copy that down to all of the other lines in green. Job done, level 1. And if it can do this and give me a similar answer with functions, I'll be very happy. I won't go through all the other levels because I just think it would take too much time, but there's a mixture of things here. You've got things like splitting text, getting to numbers, sorting and summing some numbers. You've got some questions where you've got to pull out the column number from the letter reference, counting the number of characters from strings. And then as you get towards the last level, it's going to have to lean on a separate tab with a map with numbers in, and essentially sort of do things with those numbers, either give us the number in a cell, or in the last level, there's even kind of a direction where you've got to go, okay, find the number in the cell above the reference or below. So there's quite a lot in there, bearing in mind, I'm just going to tell it to read the question and give me the answer.
And just to clarify, so someone in real life doing this and under time pressure is going to be using some combination of traditional Excel grid features like various lookup functions, perhaps indirect functions, address functions, and build longer or functions. Or I think you're allowed in the competition to build a lot of small steps off to the right and then aggregate them. You can do whatever you want, but the job is to solve it with formulaically, isn't it?
In battle competitions, you could go manual, but we want the tool to do something that's helpful and repeatable.
You could do it in Power Query. You could do VBA. You could do whatever you want. You could do Python, right?
Exactly. So what I'm going to do, I've got quite a lengthy prompt, but at the end of this prompt, I've said, hey, just do this for level 1. Let me just talk you through the prompt quickly. I'd like you to analyze the case tab in particular, which is an Excel eSports battle case with 5 bonus questions, 7 levels. These will increase in difficulty. Some information about the levels and the questions is provided under each row with the level number. So I've just pointed it to try and be helpful to row 40. We've got a reference to level 1. The answers to each level must go in the cells with dark green fill in column E throughout. Any supporting data needed to answer the questions are found in the columns to the right of column E. Solve all the questions in this workbook, putting answers in the green cells. Let's start by just solving level 1 and give me the solution so I can check you're working the right way. Then we can tackle the remaining levels. I mean, I'm not a prompting expert. I'm just trying to talk to it very naturally. So I'm going to hit go, and we'll see if it interprets the question or the prompt properly. Hopefully, we're just going to get a quick answer back for level 1. It's going to have to do some thinking, and that's what you're going to see. But let's see what it can do. Hopefully, we get a left function. It's going to link to the same cells you saw me linking to.
All right. And I'm timing it. We'll see how long it takes for this first one.
As you said, you did not, and again, I didn't read exactly what you put most recently. You didn't tell it what direction to go, right? You didn't say you must use a formula. So in theory, if it came back and it just hard entered the correct answer into the green cells, It's not the worst thing, right? It's doing it. I mean, we would like to see it done formulaically, but it might try a variety of different ways to fill in those dark green cells for question 1. And that's what we're looking for, right?
Yeah.
All right.
So hopefully it's still doing a lot of thinking. It seems to be going around a bit of a weird loop, but I'm hoping it's getting there. It's definitely still just on level 1.
And you can see it's mentioning the left function. So it is definitely on the right track.
Yeah, I think we tried this earlier, right? When you ask it to do too many questions at the same time, it can take quite a while to process.
100%. It's done it right. Easy level, but it's understood. I mean, I didn't tell it exactly what to do. I just said, read
Right.
the instructions, solve it. So
Let's scroll through one of just to show all the information we got for just this first one on the right-hand side. So you can kind of see, you go all the way up to the top, you can see it's thinking. Sometimes this is a little overwhelming, but it's also helpful to be able to validate, hey, is it thinking about things right? Or you can see it talking about extracting the first letters. And for example, let me create the formula. Okay, here's your answers. And so you can get pretty comfortable. Pretty good job.
Let's just start. I mean, I want to add, this is wildly impressive. I mean, the fact that there is a tool that AI can now read English instructions and populate the cells you've asked it. So let's not lose sight of the fact. I know we're all getting desensitized over this idea of AI building things for us, but to me, this is still extremely impressive that it can do that much, but we're going to push it even harder, aren't we? So now we're going to ask it to do all the remaining levels at the same time. Is that right?
let me show you a few things. So I think just in terms of what we've seen on the right-hand side within the Tracelight kind of user interface, you can see it stepping through bit by bit, kind of, okay, we're going to look through each level. It's thinking, it's getting to the right answers. It gives this quite nice summary at the end of all levels complete, 1 to 7, bonus levels complete. It's also got this quite nice checklist that it's made itself. So it gave itself a list of 8 tasks, the levels and the bonuses, and then it's ticked them off one by one. So you can see the kind of structure it's gone through.
I love when the AI tools are organized and they build their own to-do lists and then they tick off their own to-do lists, right? It's very...
One thing I noticed in the chat that I thought was interesting on a couple of questions said, hey, I applied one method. Either it's not working,
right.
or in one area it said, hey, I used arrays, but those may not work in all situations. So I took a different approach. I think it's interesting to see that it often, at least mentions to us it used more than one approach.
And that's it. So it's almost sense checking its own work. And I mean, it's still not going to get it 100% right. However, if I just scroll down quickly, we've got answers for all the levels. Very strangely, I'll give you an example or two. In a few green cells, it's just not put an answer in some of the levels. I don't know why. We might see if we can re-prompt it to fix that. Again, on the last level, for some reason, it didn't put anything in the first 6 green cells, but then it did put something in the cells after that. So out of all the levels, it did get one level wrong, which I think was level 5. It's not quite the right logic. I won't go into exactly what it is. It's just not quite right. If we skim through the others, level 2 was about text splitting or splitting this text string that includes numbers. You had to then just sum the top 2, the biggest 2 numbers. It has got that right. It's done it in a bit of a strange way because it's, rather than referencing the text string, it's hard-coded the numbers.
Well, it's fascinating, right? Because we're trained as humans to be allergic to this. What it's done is that's right. So if everyone can see that, it's taken the raw digits from column G there, and it has found a way to copy and paste them as dead numbers into the formula. But maybe not the worst thing in the world. I mean, because the robot can do that. The AI can do that instantly, whereas as humans, it would take us a long time. It would make no sense. But it's gotten the right answer, and it did it very quickly, obviously. Right, Giles?
4 minutes. And I feel like this might be a theme throughout, is it's got the right answer. It's kind of fulfilled my prompt because I said, make this formula based. It has done that, but then it's kind of embedded hard-coded numbers in a way we would try and avoid.
Now, extremely impressive. I mean, first of all, it went through all 10 or what it was, 7. It went through all 7 questions in, as we said, about 5 or 6 minutes in total. How long would it take an average competitor in this question to have gone through those 7 questions just to do them? I mean, it would have taken half an hour. Is that what you had?
It wouldn't be too bad. I mean, an inexperienced player, you've probably got to do things like text split, convert the text split output to numbers, use large or sort, and you take the top two. So there would be a few steps. It's not exactly an easy level, but it would take a good few minutes. Level 3 is another really good example. Okay. So level 3, you've got to take this reference here, cell reference, and return what the column number is. So the column letter there is F, and in number conversion, F is 6.
6.
It's got the right answer, but it's also fulfilled my prompt to say make it a formula, but the formula is equals 6.
There we go. It was clever. Equals 6. Giles wants it a formula. We'll make it equals 6.
You should have said use functions within the formulas.
And I'm very conscious with all of this, maybe with a different prompt you would get there. It's still interpreted the question correctly and given me the right answers quickly.
For an esports challenge like this, that's all that matters, right? It ultimately is get the right answer. If you want to use it, it would be difficult to learn. You wouldn't learn any new Excel functionality as a human, right, by looking what it did there. But it has certainly got the right answer. That's impressive.
So level 4, again, is actually given the right answer formulaically. We're trying to count the number of times this character appears in a string. And this is a very classic esports kind of learning step. Len of a string minus len of the string, where you substitute the character you're looking for with blank, will give you the number of times that character appears. So level 4, correct function-based answer. Level 5, it got wrong. I won't go into more detail than that. It did get level 5 wrong. Level 6 involves looking at the map and ideally pulling the number from the map reference. Again, similar to before, it's not used the kind of cell reference here. It's just manually linking to that cell reference directly on the map case. So not exactly how we'd want to do it in an esports case, but it got the right answer. And then level 7, some blanks, don't really understand why. And again, it's got the right answer. So level 7 was saying, start from this cell reference on the map, but then go to the cell above or below. And if you look at this one, the starting cell reference is Y13. The reference it's pulling out directly is Y12, which is one above Y13. So correct, but just a weird way to do it.
It's brilliant that it could solve it. Obviously not something that you could replicate that way. But listen, that is interesting. Okay. And where's one that had the formula correct?
Level 4 was one where it had the formula correct. This was the len minus len. That's good. That's what we would expect to do as players.
So overall, impressive.
6 out of 7. I'm sure with an extra... I mean, do you want me to have a go and see if it will correct itself if I say, hey, you left some blanks?
Why don't we try 218 and 219 where it's just 2?
So 218. So the green cells in rows 218 and 219 are blank. Please add the solutions to these cells.
As it's going, I'll tell you one of my other hesitations around. So again, it's all very impressive, but if you scroll down to one where it did a manual link, of course, it has solved these by doing a manual link. Everyone can see in the formula, which is faster than you could do that. My other hesitation around it solving it this way is that if your job was to check this, you couldn't check one formula and copy down and recognize it was correct. To check this, you would literally have to check every single one because maybe it got some of them right and some of them wrong, right? Whereas if it had built one consistent formula all the way down, you could check once and make sure that formula was exactly the same. But presumably, if it was prompted differently, maybe it would solve it differently. But let's see here. Has it filled in? It's taken another minute here. Has it filled in your 2? It's working on it.
Yeah. So apply, and it's now fixed that. So again, it's just another level of, and I think this is what I've experienced with these tools so far. You have to check the answers and go, hang on a minute, you got that wrong. Hang on a minute, you've missed something. But it's now got the right answer in those missing cells.
And the fact that it missed 2 and it got the rest right, that leads into my nervousness about the fact, well, because it linked each of them individually, maybe some of the later ones are linked correct and maybe some of them are wrong, right? So because it's doing it individually, I would feel compelled to check them. But still, the fact that it's gone this far, very impressive.
I'm going to switch over. So we have a second case. We'll be coming back to this one every time as well. It's got my face all over it because it's one of the finals cases from the XL UK Championship. This is a harder case. It's all about me and my fur coats.
And that's not what makes it hard.
No, no. But there are some harder questions in here to do with my closet and identifying how many, I should just show you very quickly, how many elements of color are there in each coat of various types. You've got some prices against the colors. So some of the questions are about, all right, convert the numbers of each color segment to a cost or a total price. Latter levels are about my dance troupe. If I go down here, there's a lot of stuff in here about my dancer troupe and formations on a grid. So again, a lot of spatial logic that it has to work out. I'm not going to go through every level. I think what I'll do is just go back up here. I've got the prompt ready to go.
So why don't we show the prompt? This has got to be the most difficult question that's ever been written in esports. It's about you, right? So it doesn't get more challenging than that, I would assume.
They get very, very hard. This is probably mid-tier for the
Mid-tier.
Mid-tier. I've taken out the prompt about do the first level. I think for this, let's just get it all done and we can kind of take that pause. So almost exactly the same prompt. I'd like you to analyze the case tab. You've got 6 bonuses and 7 levels. Some information about the levels is provided. I've given it a guide to row 52 for where the level reference is. Yeah. Each level must go into the dark purple cells. Let me I remember that I had a typo there. I don't want to confuse it. Purple cells. Read the text carefully and review your own work.
Giles, why don't you walk us through how it did? Why don't we start there?
Yeah, I mean, so kind of as expected, this is a harder case, so it's not done as well. And actually, we had to stop it at 15 or so minutes of thinking. It managed to get answers out for levels 1 to 3. It looks like it's almost got all of them wrong. There's a few answers in level 2 that it has got right. I think it is worth mentioning. So Tracelight is a tool where you can choose from a handful of LLMs. When I tested this before, it did better on this, and I think it was using Opus.
Which, if you read the descriptions, it says for complex thinking, use Opus. So we use Sonnet, not thinking about it, and you can see the difference.
Our point is that having the choice of LLMs is very useful and interesting. Unless you're an expert in LLMs, I don't think any of us necessarily think people are going to know which one to turn to.
The user is going to have some understanding of what the difference is, and otherwise most users will think that they need to do everything 4 times to try it on each LLM to get the right.
And in fairness, let's think about this. How much time do you spend to learn the basics of Excel? You know, after a day of doing this, you're going to start to get an idea of which models. They give you a little bit of guidance. So it's not like you can't do it. It's just one more barrier to overcome, so to speak.
The LLMs are changing so fast. They're changing so fast that you might know that Opus is better than Sonnet today, but next week, what if another one's better for a certain type of task you're running? I think that you're going to want to test in a few of them.
So there's a couple lessons here. First, you get a different answer every time, even if you use the same model. Second, you got to figure out how to select models. And even as you do that, these models are changing so quick. To always stay on top of it is work. So I think what we're seeing is they're amazing, but there's a lot of caveats. And even in this example, not so amazing.
This looks like something you write manually. Is that right? Or did...
So this seems to be the level 3 answer. And again, I don't know, had I specifically said, make sure you follow modeling best practice, do not build a formula longer than 1 line of the formula bar, maybe it wouldn't have done this. But this is not the sort of formula you ever want to see in any solution model. So it's not really done well at all on this, with the caveat that it did better with a different LLM before.
Yeah, I remember it scored in 929, which we said was really good for the competition. It was top 3, maybe top 1, just showing how huge of a difference, right? The score here is probably under 100 of what it solved so far.
You have some raw data, okay? You've essentially got kind of like almost like trial balance information. There are some interesting insights in the sense that you've got kind of monthly data of revenues and gross profit, net income. If you look at this, you can see there's kind of a pretty high net income relatively at the start of the year. It turns negative towards the end and then pops back to just positive. All I'm going to ask the tool to do is analyze the raw data on I wasn't sure what tab it was going to be called. So on the trial balance data tab. I'd like you to produce a comprehensive financial summary, include charts, as well as some KPIs.
It ran for roughly 4 minutes. We used Claude Opus this time to see how it would do, saying it's a little more complex task. Giles, why don't you walk us through what we got?
We asked for some kind of summary on a different tab. We wanted charts, we wanted KPIs. Again, this is a real mixed bag for me. It has produced a new tab called Executive Dashboard. It's got some KPIs on here, but this is certainly not something where I would just be happy as a manager to like click a button and go, cool, dashboard done, all good. So I asked it to look at the trial balance data, which was the raw data, and to produce the analysis off of that. There was also a tab in here, which was just kind of hard-coded summary numbers for my benefit, really, so that I could see, for net income, as an example, across this year of monthly data, the net income starts at a number, drops negative, and then goes back up right in the last month in December. So it's pointing to that monthly summary for the executive summary, which is not what I asked it to do. It's got some labeling that I would probably question. It's got EBITDA here as a label, but that's pointing to the net income line, and there is depreciation within this data. So that's interesting. That doesn't feel too accurate. Most of these references are to the monthly summary, with one exception here. It's produced some key insights, and I'll give it some credit. It looks like the insights are okay in the sense that it said, hey, look, nice revenue recovery in Q4. So it's kind of picking up on the fact that you've got negative EBITDA, it's calling it.
I always really like the areas of concern, right? That it mentioned cost of sales are trending upward. Operating expense ratio has increased, saying, look, you got an expense problem. It made that pretty clear. That's at least good info.
I think I'm trying to think of how might you use this. It might be at the moment, it could be a useful ally to go, hey, I'm going to do some analysis. You analyze the data as well. Tell me what you find. I certainly wouldn't just be swapping any work on my part as an analyst and going, hey, here's a one-click report that I can rely on. I guess that's where my head is.
Yeah. So probably a good to look at, get you some ideas, get you thinking, but it's not presentation ready.
Any closing thoughts on my set of tests, Ian?
No, I mean, listen, on one hand, as is keep saying, very impressive that it has the capability to do this, but I think probably not quite for a desk ready sort of tool that's going to start to do your work for you. If that's what some of the thinking is and some of the predicting that's going to happen, it's not quite there yet. I think we'd agree. It definitely needed a lot of us checking and getting comfortable with what it was doing, right?
And I think what it also highlights is, could you get there? Probably with, breaking up prompts and doing it very slow, but then how much time are you saving?
I want to be coming to these tools and going, hey, analyze. It was the same thing I've always said with Copilot. I want to have a data set and go, analyze that, not here's a 50-step guide to what I want you to do, because I could just do it myself.
Yeah, but let's be clear as well. I think maybe the best usage is to use it to help you to learn, right? To say, I'm not sure how I would solve question 1. What do you think? Help me learn how I could solve it, and spend a couple minutes, and then I can learn from what it does. So if it's only linking to direct cells or putting hard-coded numbers, it's not a good look. So what we're saying is, if it takes too long, we're not going to bother doing it. If it's giving us the wrong answers, we're not going to do it. If we have to format it, it's going to add some extra time. If we can learn from it, that'll be helpful. But in some cases, it seems to want to just dump in a hard answer without giving us an opportunity to learn from it. So listen, obviously there's a place for it. Impressive, but limitations so far.
And I'll play one side of kind of a little bit of devil's advocate. I think the first time you do something, you're really going to have to work through the prompts. But if you save all those, how much time is it the second time? The third time? If you're continuing to similar work, right? You could substantially reduce your time, but it's just like learning the formulas. You're going to have to put a lot of time up front. I think in the long term, these tools will save us a lot of time, but you have to be willing, like learning VBA or anything. This is not a press a button, go give it to your boss outside of very basic things.
So maybe that's part of the journey we will go on through this series is, I know we're going to stick to the same prompts, but we might, if we go to whatever, series 2, 3, 10, maybe we will evolve our prompting and think about things like that.
Well, and I think we may even a little bit as we learn, we'll try to stick to the same basic ideas, but we're learning as well. I think that's the message here is they have a workbook that has some price, volume, mix, variance analysis. And let me see if I can make that a little bigger for everybody here. This was one we used in a case called Paul Gets Spicy. Don't ask why I get spicy, but I do from time to time. So it's a business. It has 3 products. Let me just slide this out of the way so we can walk through it. It has these Barnhurst Basics, which is a smoothie with certain ingredients, Paul's Mango Punch, and then the Boss, Barnhurst Organic Superfood Smoothie. And what we can see here is the budget said we're going to sell 800 units. We sold 900 units, but our gross margin went down 20%. So what we're going to ask it to do is see how much of that was related to price, how much is volume altogether, so that we can isolate mix for each product. So we're going to step through it. And since this one will this will be really quick for each of them, we might step through a couple different models and see how it does it, just so you can kind of see a little bit of that. So let me grab the prompt here and we'll get that. So basically with the prompt, all I've told it is, hey, in this workbook, I have a price volume mix analysis I want done on gross margin. Can you analyze the data in cells B24 through, to J, shouldn't be J24. Let me change that. It should be J29. Make sure that's right. And provide the price variance for 3 products listed. The products are BB in cell B26, PMP in cell B27, and Boss in cell B28, which let me get the rest of the prompt there. And so I'm just asking it to solve the first one. All right, so that took about a minute to run. What you'll see here is it created one to-do, which is basically calculate and populate price variance formula. What's interesting is it didn't check off that it finished the to-do there, but here here's where it put it. So at the bottom it did. It gave a little bit of information about each of these. So it said, here are the results. Price increased from this to this. It's a $50 impact. Price decreased from this to this. It's a $33 unfavorable. And then this one here, $10 favorable. So what we see overall, 50 minus 30. And then this one here, $10 favorable. So what we see overall, 50 minus 30 and 10. It got the answers right. It gave us some analysis. I mean, on the whole, I'd say A on this. No issues. Now what we'll do, any thoughts, Giles, or in on this one?
Yeah, it looks like it's done it well. I mean, it's understood the task. It's put the answers in the right place. I wouldn't necessarily say that's an easy thing to interpret. So yeah, that looks quite impressive.
All right, so let's try it. Since this one only takes about a minute to run, let's copy it again. And we're going to try it with a different LLM this time. So
is it worth deleting the answer before you hit go?
Yes, it is. So let's delete out the answer. We're going to copy back in the question. And we're going to run it again using Sonnet 4.5. So we ran it with Sonnet last time. That ran for about 45 seconds. We did Claude Sonnet 4.5. Once again, it gave us the answers. It was right. Gave us the information. The price variance results was roughly the same. It didn't have quite as much instruction as the first one. So it started here, and that's all it had. If you look at the first one it answered, it gave a little more detail in it, but very similar. So no issues, relatively simple task. I could select either model. Now let's try it with the other two. So we have Claude Opus and we have Chat GPTs. We just ran that with Claude Opus 4.1. Again, gave us the right answer. Took a little over 50 seconds for that one. Notice it, if we scroll up, here's where I put it in. You can see the answer here. Very similar, all right here, very similar analysis as the other ones. Did a little bit above, a little below, no real difference, gave us a key insight. So almost all of these are the exact same for this simple problem. Now let's try a different company of tool. We've done 3 of Claude. Let's see what happens with Chat GPT, and then we'll move on to the next task. This one ran for about 3 minutes and hung up. So I went ahead and created a new chat, processed it again, and it's been running almost 3-4 minutes and hasn't finished. So the results we're finding, at least in this situation, is all the Anthropic models gave us the same answer, very similar. The Chat GPT one is just hanging. And I think the message we have, and this will be a theme throughout, we'll get a much better idea as we test everything. But I think our message here is, over time, we want these tools to just tell us what model's best. There's a lot of time. And that's what I mean. Just tell us to use this model or choose it for us is what I mean by that. No.
And what we're saying is, as these things change at lightning pace, right now, the tool's leaving it to the user to effectively have to run every single prompt 4 times under each LLM, because how do we know exactly which LLM is going to be the best to solve it? Because tomorrow it could be different. And I guess, yeah, we'd love to see the tool say, listen, based on your request, we think the best solution, or look, we ran it and the best solution is going to come out of this LLM. And so here's your answer. Otherwise, it's not optimal. That's what you're saying, Giles?
What does the Tracelight tool, or swap Tracelight for any other tool, what does it do on top of the LLM? That would be a huge value added feature if it could pick the best tool, the best LLM for a particular challenge. But I guess we're not there yet.
So what I have here is about 300 rows of data, roughly, I think it is. Yeah, 270 something records with an invoice number, a contract. Let's make this a little larger. Contract start and end date, contract months, the amount, the product name, address, city, state. What I'm going to do is I'm going to ask the tool to create a deferred revenue schedule for me, right? Anyone who's done any accounting knows I can't recognize the full, in this case, basically $24,000 upfront. I need to recognize that over 24 months. And that could take a little bit of time, anyone who's built a deferred revenue schedule. So let's see how it does. I have a prompt here. Let me pull it up.
So you're expecting a kind of horizontally profiled timeline with essentially revenue by period.
Yep. Here's the prompt I've gave it. We'll go through it. I'm going to use, I think this is a relatively complex task, much more than the PVM. So I'm going to go ahead and, let me just make this a little bigger. I'm going to select Claude Opus. We've kind of talked about that, but using the data on the raw billing data sheet, build a deferred revenue schedule that can be used to recognize the revenue by month. And I've told it what the column header should be. Include customer name, product name, contract amount, contract start date, contract end date. And then have columns for every month from January 1st, 2026 through December 31st, 2029. The rows should include every dealership, the amount of revenue to recognize each month, and a check to make sure the amount is recognized equals the contract amount over the period. This should be done in a new worksheet. Let's see how it does. We can see here, it did some thinking. It created a to-do list with 5 items, all made sense. This is Claude Opus. I've applied the deferred revenue schedule. We're looking at it. We can see, hey, let me pull the dates. It walked through each step, how many seconds it thought for, validated the formulas. So what we have here, I'm going to close this, is we have this deferred revenue schedule, and I'm just going to put a freeze pane so we can kind of scroll over. So you can see it did a check right here to make sure the contract amount and the total recognized, which it did a formula, equals each other. And what I like is here, it did do a little bit of a round. So, hey, it doesn't have to be an exact match. If it's within a penny or two, within a penny, that's good. Okay or error. And then it has each of the months all the way out. What I didn't like is it didn't format the months.
Isn't that hard-coded as well?
It is. We'll get there in a second. So let's change this real quick. There we go. See, what's weird is it decided to use the 26th. 126, 226, 326.
Why is it doing that?
And then it did 2025 there. So it didn't do these dates right across the top.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
But it got the formulas right because it hard-coded the formulas. That is not right. Usually it gets it right. I think I've used Sonnet before. I've run this a couple times. So interesting. You can see, but that's the right number for that month.
Fundamentally, I think my view, and I'm sure this is shared by many Excel users, fundamentally, even though it can do this instantaneously, it makes me uncomfortable that it sticks dead hard-coded values inside any function. Inside, as an example, here inside your date function, right? You want to click on that date. Fundamentally, I don't like, based on modeling discipline, that there's dead numbers, because now it makes me wonder, is it possible one of them might be wrong? Did it get the number? I mean, I think fundamentally from a model discipline standpoint, I'm curious if you guys agree. I want to see an automated function that I can test and check all the way down and know that it built it correctly all the way down.
Agreed. And what's interesting, what it did is the reason it's working right is basically saying, hey, are both these dates between that date then divided by 24?
Right.
Really, we normally do beginning and end of month. Okay, yeah, they both fit in there.
Yeah.
So it works, but it's clunky in that, right? Giles still has this look of like, what? Why?
It's not dynamic. Being a dynamic is one of the key attributes of any good spreadsheet. And if you do understand this, you're going to be uncomfortable. If you don't understand this, then you won't be able to modify it later.
It's also wrong. So the headers, if you look at the headers, they're 2025 years for the first block, and the dates in the hard-coded date functions are 2026. So there's a misalignment between the headers for the columns and the dates it's putting the numbers in.
I know that because
So
it
that's
went
right.
off what's here and it did this right, but it did not. I've noticed that.
Yeah.
I've run this. So I will tell you, I've run this 3 times. It's always used hard-coded, a little different. Usually it puts the month end, depending on the model, and the dates aren't right. The totals are all right. The numbers are right.
Okay.
You know, if you're experienced in Excel, I could have it run this in 3 minutes and then just go tweak it, right? But if you're not experienced in Excel and you want to make it dynamic, so next month I could add more customers.
Yeah, the problem is every single cell with a date function there has got a different set of hard-coded numbers. So, I mean, let's be honest, that's a 2-minute job as an Excel user. You got the dates in the headers, you do the greater than or less than and equal to, and it's 2 minutes. Copy it across the whole block.
It got the right numbers, but there are definitely some issues.
Yep.
Some things to work out. And could you get there if you continue to prompt? Sure, you could, but this part is not hard to just do yourself. All right.
Yep.
I'm going to stop because we've spent plenty of time. I think I'll just do these 2 for now, and we'll turn it over to our man In for a modeling example. Both Giles and I have done some testing. I've done a couple FP&A use cases, and Giles has done his eSports or whatever that is he spends all his time on. He loves solving things in Excel. Now we're going to turn it over to the man, the myth, the legend, In, to do some modeling cases.
Make my head swell, Paul. Don't be doing that. But yeah, no, we're going to get into some traditional corporate finance 3-statement modeling, and I'll see what we have time for here. If I don't get through some of the tests that I want in this one, I'll try some other ones on other tools, but we'll get a sense. And what I'm going to do is I'm first going to run some testing on an existing ready built model to see if it can help me check this model. And then I'm going to move into just a raw set of historical financial statements of this company, Henderson. I'm going to ask it to do some building. I'm going to see if it can build, see what it looks like to build a financial model with somewhat limited guidance at this point, and we'll see where we get to. Okay. So I've got a model here. And by the way, this is an example of the type of model that our candidates in the AFM program at FMI need to build from scratch in, on the AFM exam. This is a model that it's a vertically oriented model. It's got a cover sheet, an executive summary. It's a 5-year 3-statement model. It's got an assumptions page here. It's got scenarios where I can run base, best, and worst. And then the model sheet is out here. I've got the revenue forecast, the cost forecast, schedule, and then I have the financial statements. I've got the income statement, scroll down, I've got the cash flow statement, and I've got the balance sheet. Now, so this is a ready model that's already built. It's completely built. I am going to ask it to do a couple of tests. I'm going to start off with some gentle tests to kind of check this file. And I'm going to use Claude Opus 4.
You had to pick an AFM case to bring back nightmares from practicing.
Nightmares, Paul, you passed. You are an AFM charter holder, right? You did an outstanding job building a model just like this one on your exam. And this actually is your exam submission. No, I'm just kidding. This that is not yours. It is not yours. I wouldn't do that to you. But this is the exact type of model and that you both ended up creating on your own AFM exam. So let's go through. And so the first thing I want to do, and I run a lot of webinars all over the world on checking and auditing and making sure models are working. So let me do a quick test right off the bat. And I'm just going to say, I'm going to type it in. Are there any hidden sheets? It's something I always tell people to look for. Are there any hidden sheets in this file. And let's see if it can just run through it on its own here without pausing. Now, there are two types of hidden sheets. There are normal hidden sheets and then very hidden sheets, which most people don't even know.
That's what I was gonna say. Did you put some very hidden in here in?
Well, I want to see what it can do, Paul. I'm trying to test this thing. So there is. So let me show you. Now, by the way, this doesn't take long in real. Let's see who can do it faster. So it's running. I've asked it to, if there are there any hidden sheets. Now, of course, to do this manually, I would literally go home, format, hide and unhide, and I'd know that there's a hidden sheet because it's lit up. So I can tell within 3 seconds that there's a hidden sheet called Covert. But let's see if we can get our Claude AI tool working. So I've tried it under Sonnet. So Sonnet's thinking, and it's discovered that it's working through this. It's taken longer than it would take me already manually, but it's going through it. It says, great, I found a hidden sheet. It's looking at values, and it has historically done this quite quickly for me, but that's an interesting one. Oh, I can see it's already seems to have discovered that there are some.
Yeah, it's found it. Now it's trying to give you all the information.
And there we go.
Smart and
It's got it. Look, it said, yes, I like this. Yes, there are 2 hidden sheets in this workbook. There's Covert sheet, which I just showed you. And then there's a clandestine sheet, and that is deeply undercover. It is hidden sheets. So these, yeah, so there is, and it tells me where to even find it as well. So it did a great job here. So if all you knew about, so it's surfaced something that you might not know to find anyway. If you knew about finding hidden sheets, I could unhide this one. Right, here's a sheet called Covert. But what it figured out was that if I went to the, if I press Alt F11 to get to the VBA for the VBA menu, the VBA sort of editor, you don't need to know VBA. But when you go here, you can see a list of all the sheets, and they all say sheet name. And then at the bottom, it tells you the status. It's visible. The one that was Covert used to say hidden. It used to say hidden. Now we made it visible. But there is a sheet here called clandestine that's very hidden. And it figured that out. It was able to see that. I was very pleased. So it passed that test, and it's done a great job. It found the hidden and the very hidden sheets. Okay, excellent. So I think that did a great job there. The next thing I want to ask it to do, if I'm checking this model, is I'd like to see if there's any white values. Sometimes people hide white values.
And while you're doing that, I think it's interesting. It's assumption. It says the hidden sheet appears to be part of the AFM's process. They're testing you. So it's assuming it's
hidden sheet appears to be part of the financial advanced exam solution. Interesting, likely demonstrating advanced Excel techniques for candidates. That's not, I like that it's suggesting why it was put in there. The reality is it was put in to demonstrate how to discover these things. But thank you. I do like that it is giving me some theories over why it's there. Interesting. What it's looking for is to find any white values in the sheet. Now, we have tested other AI tools that are not able to detect color, right? So that I was curious about this one. Other tools I've looked at have said, I can't tell what color cells are, but look at this. Here it says, yes, there are white colored sheets, values on the model sheet that would be invisible against the white background. Look how excited it is. It's giving me an exclamation mark. I found them. It is correctly found in S9 to U12. Let's see here. S9 to U12. Yes, it has. It has found in this spot. There were some white cells. Love it. So it passed that test. It also discovered, I didn't even know this. It discovered that from H8 to J9, H8 to J9, that's down here. This is just a bunch of blank. I wasn't even sure why, but I realized it is correct. I didn't even realize that this cell, the font was white, but it was, and it knew, even though there was nothing in the cell, right? The cell was actually blank, but it was aware that the font was a white font. You can't see it. So it's done a nice job. So these are some decent checks. Now, these things don't take long to check to do it on your own manually, but I like that it did pass that test. The next thing I want to show it, let's get a little bit more complex. So in this model, what I deliberately did is I went to the balance sheet and I made it not balance. Now, I made it go out of balance. And the way I did that is with a classic modeling error. What I did is on the working capital schedule. Now, anyone who's done modeling with us knows that one of a really strong best practice in modeling is to not have any big formulas on your financial statements, but rather link them to schedules. So the change in working capital on the cash flow statement is linking to the working capital schedule. Now, any modeler would know that the change in working capital should always be last year minus the current year. And what I did before we started this video is I switched it. I made a classic modeling error. This is a common error. I calculated this as the current year minus last year. People do this all the time, and it gives me the wrong so each of these numbers is the right number, but the sign is wrong. This one should be positive 6.9, not minus 6.9. It's each one of these should be the opposite sign. It should be last year minus this year. Now, I will tell you, when I buggered it up, when I messed it up, and then I ran the AI, it saw what I did to mess it up, and it figured out, it said, well, you just made it out of balance, so I figured out what you did wrong. So this time, I'm starting a new search with the model already out of balance, but I'm showing you what the error is. The error is that the change in working capital is wrong. Let's imagine this happens to me all the time. People email me, they say, Ian, my balance sheet's not balanced, and I can't figure out why it's not balanced. Can you help me? Sure. So I help people all the time do that. So
Yeah,
what I'm going to do.
you had someone email you on LinkedIn and ask you to do their homework.
Exactly. It happens all the time. I shouldn't have mentioned that. It happens a lot, but I actually enjoy doing it because usually it's pretty quick to find the answers. There's only, I've created videos on this. There's only 10 reasons why a balance sheet is potentially out of balance. I'm not going to go through them now, but I'm going to ask Tracelight. I'm going to say, why doesn't the balance sheet balance? And I'm going to press enter, and let's see if it can figure out why this balance sheet's not balancing. Now, this is a harder question. It needs to go through. It says it's asking me why it does. And I'm curious to see what it does. And then I'm also, maybe we'll try it again and we'll ask Claude Opus.
There are lots of model auditing tools out there on the market. I don't think there are any that would have this level of insight. Like, a lot of them go like, hey, there are this many ref errors in the model. This is the last active cell. There's some, it probably does do like hidden values to some degree, but to have something say your balance sheet doesn't balance and here's why, and I can fix it, that would be something we've not seen before.
I recognize this is a very difficult test. This is something that a strong financial modeler could do and should be expected to. If anybody sent me this model and it was not balancing, I would expect that within 5 or 10 minutes on my own, I should be able to find it. And a strong modeler should be able to figure that out, because there are some common reasons why balance sheets don't balance. And if you understand, one of the key things to check is working capital. And any good modeler understands how working capital is calculated, and they need to understand how changes in working capital are calculated, which feeds into the cash flow statement. It tells us, it says here.
Just said the issue is in the net PP&E calculation.
Which one's interesting, Giles?
That confident statement that might be not true.
I love it that it adds exclamation marks. It's so confident. It's like an excited child. I found the issue. No, I mean, I like it, right? I found the issue. The problem is in the net PP&E calculation of the balance sheet. And the balance sheet doesn't balance because of an error in the net PP&E. And now it's telling me the CapEx values are negative. Well, we know this isn't right. It's kind of making this up, right? This is clearly, so it's actually giving me, it's giving me what it believes the solution should be. And it's giving me an option to apply this. I'm actually very interested in this because when I ran this previously, it actually told me the reason the balance sheet wasn't balanced last time I ran this was because of the debt. Let's just see. So we know that that's not correct, but let's see. Let's apply this and actually see what it does. I'm very curious to know what it actually is. It's going to do something in row 163 here. It claims it's going to fix the problem. Looks like it's just made it worse, Giles. And now it's made a real mess out of this, but it is, so in row 163, it is done something here. And well, what it did is it actually took the prior year's PP&E on the balance sheet, and it is now adding in the CapEx, which is a negative number. So that's wrong. The formula should be what it was, but as a modeler, I know that I need to minus the CapEx because it's already negative. So minusing it will add the CapEx in, and then subtract the depreciation. So I need to be a strong modeler to understand that what it did was wrong, and I'm going to copy that back and populate it.
Isn't that one of the big problems at the moment? Not just for Tracelight, but any LLM. It's so confident in saying, I found the problem. This is it. Boom. And if you don't know your stuff, and you don't check it.
If you don't know your stuff, you're in trouble. And let's go fix it now. Let me prove to our viewers here. Let me prove. Yeah, I agree with you, Giles. Let me prove to our viewers that really the problem was what I mentioned. The change in working capital is current minus last year, which is wrong. It's got to be last year minus the current year. That should be, and I'm going to copy that to the right, Control R. And now we see I have the same value.
Now watch it not tie.
And we're starting the recording from scratch. No, just kidding. But here it is. And I will just run it through, clear out the zeros by recalculating it. And now, of course, it's perfect. So as I indicated, the real problem was that working capital, but this concerns me, right, Giles? It concerns me that, I kind of wish it said, I don't know, right? I wish it kind of said, I'm not sure why it's not balancing, but rather it has said this. I found it. The problem confidently is in the net PP&E, and it took a correct formula and it changed it so that it was now incorrect.
Interesting on this. I saw a study the other day where they're trying a new LLM model. I can't remember what it was called, but basically the whole idea is to reduce hallucinations and reduce from 13 to 1%.
Let me go again, current minus last year. Let's me get it out of balance. Now, you see, it watched me do that. So it now knows what I did to mess it up. But let's try a new, let's try a brand new. Now, by the way, listen, we recognize that we are asking it to do very, very challenging stuff. This is not easy, but let's try it with Opus. Let's just see. What do you guys think?
I hope so. Challenging, but again, where my bar is to really start using this is kind of where the bar is. Like I need the tool to save me time and thought process, energy. And if you could just point in and say, check this model, tell me what's wrong. That's kind of what I need from an auditing tool.
My belief that people are going to hear me say over and over, the more I use these tools, and again, I'm excited about AI, I really am, but my strong view and belief is the best users, those who really want to climb the ladder and position themselves well, are going to have to use AI as their partner, as someone to bounce ideas around with, someone that can give you ideas, but you can push back and say, that's not right. I don't believe that, or I don't think that's the best way to do it. And I actually want to go in a different direction. And you can have a real intellectual discourse and conversation with, so to speak. If you're simply relying on it, I don't think that's going to serve you well. I believe the person is still going to have to deliver an answer to another person, and you're going to have to understand it. So I needed to be able to fix this balance sheet on my own. So let's try in here. So here using Claude Opus, it's looking through all the pieces, right? It's showing imbalances, good. It's trying to trace the issue. It's checking the equity schedule. I mean, it's checking cash.
It's doing all the right things in the sense of what we do.
It seems that looking at the change log, there's a critical error on the root cause. So that's what I'm worried about, because as I mentioned, when I tried this previously before we recorded, I had Tracelight on and it was watching me make the mistake. And then when it watched me make the mistake, and then I ran the search, it was able to say, hey, again, I know we're just trying to run it. It's still taking a while here. It appeared that it was on to something. It showed us, it seemed to recognize there was a working capital issue, but as it processed and processed and processed, at the end of its processing, it now says root cause, according to the change log, the net PP&E formula was modified. So it's back to, it has abandoned its view that working capital is the issue. But now it says the real issue is that, well, there's a slight mismatch. Okay. And it seems to be leading us down the path once again, where technically it thinks the PP&E formula is incorrect. So we know that's not right. And it's giving me, it's also checking for circular references. I'm not sure why it's doing that. There's no problem there. So again, it's tried to do, it actually was very close to determining this was working capital, but then it abandoned that idea and it's come back to thinking that the problem is PP&E. So listen, again, really impressive to watch it go through all of this. This is a complex task. I'm not trying to make light of that or minimize it, but it still requires, if I was a brand new modeler and had no idea how models worked and was asking it to help me, I would probably become frustrated fairly quickly watching it spin and not getting me to an answer. Would you guys feel differently?
Yeah, you're not going to learn anything from that either, just because it's wrong. So you're almost going to learn incorrect things if you try to rely on it for some sort of training. So yeah.
And that's the thing, is I think that a good AI tool should help teach you, should help educate you as well on what it's doing. So it's struggling a little bit there. And this is going to be the ultimate test. What I'm going to do is I am going to very, very simply, you see, all I have on this sheet is an income statement, cash flow statement, and a balance sheet. I've got 3 actual years, and that's it. This is what the beginning of the AFM exam looks like. You get 3 years of financial statements, and then you have to build a 5-year forecast model. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in and we're going to use Opus, right? We've said we'll use Opus again.
Yep.
I'm just going to say build a 5-year forecast model on the model sheet. That's this one here for the years 2025 to 2029. Build separate schedules for revenues, costs, depreciation, income tax, working capital, debt, and equity. And then I've simply said, make reasonable assumptions. I don't care what assumptions it uses. I want to understand the mechanics, the logic. I want to see if it understands the integration of all the financial statements and the calculations. I'm not that fussed about how it makes assumptions for now.
This is the area where I've seen the boldest statements, let's say, on LinkedIn about what some of these tools can do. I don't think Tracelight has been doing this, but if a model can do a full and accurate forecast like this, I'll be really impressed.
And what it's done is it took about 2 minutes, and it says, I'll help you build a 5-year model. And it's thinking about a proposed plan. It says, how about we do this? How about I'll build a model with supporting schedules? This is my approach. It's walking me through. Yeah, it wants to use growth rates, price volume drivers. It wants to use COGS as a percentage, SG&A. So I'm okay with that for now. I want to see what it can create. It's proposing how it's going to build the pieces. And then it's talking about integration. So it's basically saying, are you okay? Yeah, it wants to use revenue growth at 3 to 5%, margins. Thoughtful. It's actually really impressive. This is really impressive so far. Very impressive to watch. I'm not going to lie. I told it to build the model after it provided a recommended approach. There's an apply button that I'll push in a moment, but it says, let me start by building the support schedules. It was actually fascinating to watch it think through this. It broke down 9 tasks, and it said it was going to build the cost assumption schedule, whatever that, it built the depreciation schedule. So it spent a few minutes, it took about, I think we said 6 minutes in total. It built the working capital, it's building the debt schedule, and it was iterating and going back and forth. So it obviously learning and figuring out how to do these things. The cash flow statement is complete. It says, I noticed the ending cash is going negative. And then it says the 5-year forecast model is complete. This is what it did. It's telling me all the things it did. Key observation, cash management, suggested adjustments. It's ready to go. It says the model is ready to go. So let's see. We're going to do this live on the fly. It says click apply to add it into the sheet. So let's click apply and see what we get here. And then we'll kind of wrap it up. So here's apply. And let's see what happens. So it's putting it into a sheet, and I am going to close out a Tracelight for a second so we can see. All right, it's started by changing some column widths here. So it's made some columns a little bit wider. But all right, well, I've got a 5-year forecast of the income statement, and I'm actually going to let me make these a little bit skinnier so that I can see what's going on. I mean, the formatting is not great, obviously, but it's got a 5-year forecast of an income statement. It's got a 5-year forecast of a cash flow statement. I don't know why it's taking a value and multiplying it by a half. This is a dividend number. I have no idea why it would be, but anyway, that's fine.
Well, what's K30? Is that income? Is it basically saying 50% of income?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. It's a hard number, and that's okay. So let's just kind of evaluate. It's got a cash flow. It's got a balance sheet. And of course, let's just double check here. I've got a balance sheet. So there was no check line before, but assets minus liabilities, of course, the historical.
As you were skimming through, I was seeing that you were drawing on the debt revolver, but the cash was also showing a balance. Like there's little things that a modeler would spot that you think doesn't look right.
No, it actually built a schedule for me. Now I can see why it had these columns wider. It built a schedule. One thing, of course, that none of us are going to like is that it's not vertical. It's chosen to put 2025 in the revenue schedule, but it's not underneath 20. It should be in column J, right? We always want to make sure the columns are aligned, but that's okay for now. It has put, Not sure what this one is doing here. So it's done some interesting work, but I think we would all agree this is not exactly client ready yet, is it?
No.
There is a working capital schedule here. It is kind of has some formatting, but I'm going to have to fix the formatting. It's trying. I mean, and maybe with some prompts, we can get it to clean it up, but I'm going to need to kind of play with this and flex this to get it working. What I am going to do here very quickly is I want to just line up. I want to put this in G. I want to take all my numbers and I'm going to just move them into the correct columns here. So at least, oh, that I did that. No, actually, the other thing it has done is it's added a column. It's added a column in between our 3 historicals and the forecast. I don't know why it has sort of a blank column here, which
Could you do a spot check? What's it done for the start of the cash flow statement in the indirect operations? What's the cash flow? What's the net income line doing? Okay.
it's great. But the point is, I'm going to need to rely, I think heavily on strong modeling skills to
See, and you notice it did do. Remember how dividends, it did K30 divide times 0.5. It just took the net income and said half of it, which means you're expecting them to give you dividends because you have a negative net income.
So it's made an assumption. When I ran this earlier, it actually had built an assumption section at the top. So let's see on the revenue schedule what it did. Here it's put the assumptions. This time it's chosen to put its assumption, and I'm okay with this. It's decided on some growth rates for now, and it is building them off
That's okay.
the prior year. Oh, that's fine.
Yep.
I'm okay. I mean, it's not, it's okay for this current run of the model. My biggest concern lies in some, issues around design and structure, around why there's a brand new blank column in the middle here. I also had to align them myself. And of course, the big issue is it's not balancing. So
Right. Yep.
we're going to have to go through and figure out. And in fact, let's just try this quickly. I tried this before. I'll say the forecast balance sheet doesn't balance. I'll give it an exclamation mark. What's the problem? Let's just see what it does here. I'm going to say the forecast balance sheet doesn't balance. What's the problem? Let's see what the user, they're calling me the user. The user is saying that the balance sheet doesn't balance. And so now it's flying through here. It apologized to me on an earlier iteration.
That's pretty common to get an apology. Sorry, I was wrong, even though I was very confident I was right.
I see potential issues. So let's see if it can figure out, because the 3 of us have not analyzed this enough to know why. But, here's the thing. If you're a junior investment banker, or you're working in research, or you're working in corporate development, if you're building a model like this, your boss isn't going to care, why it's out of balance or that you used AI to help you. Your boss just wants to know what's wrong and how are we going to fix it. They're going to look at you. You are going to need to know what the problem is and how to fix it. What's that?
And if you, again, I was pointing out earlier, you're on the revolver line there. So you're drawing on the revolver for 50 million. And then on the cash line on 78, you've got a negative of the same balance. So that's kind of jumping out to me as
well. The revolver
is not right.
And you know what, Giles, you're right. Like, again, you and I know this because we can build models, but so we are seeing here an increase in the bank debt, the revolver. It's gone from 0 to 50, which means this change on the balance sheet has to get picked up on the cash flow statement.
Okay.
Obviously, by having a $50 million increase in their revolver, that means that I should have seen 50 million. That same 50 should have shown up as a cash inflow on the cash flow statement. It's not. It says I found it. Forecast columns are incorrectly referencing column G when they should reference K to O. I mean, I don't think that's right. Let's just click apply. I think it's going to make a bit of a mess again.
No, it's not. You can already tell the cash was stayed at 0.
I'm not sure exactly what it did here, but I think we can agree that, and I'm on the balance sheet. So we still have, this is the revolver row here. It's the revolver is still not showing any cash inflow. That's not the issue, but all the other numbers have changed. And are we still out of balance? Yeah. I mean, our balance sheet is still significantly out of balance.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to struggle if I ask it to help try and solve the problem. Giles, would you agree? We're going to have to roll up our sleeves on our own.
I mean, that's probably the end of where we kind of do our analysis for this episode, I guess. It's not at the point where you could rely on it as a replacement for an analyst or anything else like that.
Yeah, and the bottom line, there's a couple things going on here, right? Some of it you could argue is prompt, and could we chunk it out and maybe get there? Sure, but then do you really get savings? How experienced you have to be? I mean, if I had to vote overall, I say Tracelight is impressive. It's doing good work. Is it prime time where I would give it to a junior analyst and say, go to work? I don't see it yet. Not without a lot of struggling.
And I would say again, it's easy to be critical. It's wild. I agree with both of you. It's wildly impressive on how it can do things, how it can act as our partner. Wildly impressive on what it did, for the eSports, where it had to fill in, predefined cells, and on, some of the things you asked it to do. And I think that this would be great for someone like you, Paul, or Giles, or me. I mean, if I wanted to get a head start on building the structure of a model, maybe this would help save me time. But again, I think that, the user, I believe, is going to have to be stronger than ever to understand how to troubleshoot, how it's making mistakes, where it's making mistakes, how to fix it. I mean, I'd be happy to work with this, but someone who doesn't know modeling, if their view is that they can use this as a replacement to their own skills and knowledge, I think they're in for a bit of a shock, or a bit of a rude awakening, at least right now. But again, extremely impressed that we have these tools and that they're evolving. I can't wait to see where they go. But I think it's been really fun to test this out, and I give a lot of kudos. It's unbelievable to know that what it's able to do so far in 1 year.
Kudos to Tracelight for building this, for getting out there and helping the market. And bottom line is, we don't think we're there yet, but we're going to test more tools, see what they all show. And after we've done a few of them, we'll come back and talk about some of the strengths and weaknesses so we have comparison. All right. Now that we've had a little bit of fun, we're going to sign off. Thank you, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Take care, everybody.